Like prior to that, I was doing these other shows and it was like a dwindling amount of audience every time. Pivoted to a roast of the Seattle tech scene. And there was this moment when Jesse and I were standing outside and looking at the line to go into Laughs Comedy Club. And it was literally like out the door or almost around the corner.
Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing the team at Socially Inept. They're a gang of techie comedians. I interviewed Austin, Jesse, Nikita, and Lee about the unique tech roast style of comedy that they use, their origins, and what makes the technology scene inherently funny. We also have some good laughs along the way. I hope you enjoy. So, team at Socially Inept, thank you for coming on the Ken's Nearest Neighbors podcast. I've seen your stuff all over Instagram, pretty much everywhere. A lot of my friends are sending it. A lot of my data scientists, software engineering friends are sending me stuff, telling me that you guys are a lot funnier than anything I've ever tried to do. So it's quite exciting and it's quite an honor for you guys to be here, just talking with me. To kick things off, I'd love to learn more about you from an audience perspective. So we can just go around, like, tell me who you are, what you think is funny about yourself, and Austin,
what we think is funny about ourselves.
Maybe more what's funny about some of your peers that people should know.
My name's Austin Nasso, and I am a former software engineer. I was at Microsoft for 4 years, and I quit last year to do comedy full-time. I also own real estate, which enabled me to quit because I didn't have income from this yet, but now we have income, which is good. And I've been doing comedy since I was 18. I'm 27, and I run Socially Inept with these guys.
What's funny about you?
What the fuck is funny about me? I feel like I do a lot of impressions and characters, and I feel like I'm just...
You're describing you like you died.
I don't know.
There's this serious...
I've always been like class clown. I'm just like an essence.
Nikita, maybe the software engineering part of him did die, and he's now birthed this new chapter of his life. Come on, there's artistry in
that. I think the software engineering part in all of us who used to be software engineers, that's not exactly my background, but I think those parts are happier now than they've ever been, because like those little internal software engineers are getting to meet all these like exciting companies. They're getting to say things that they wouldn't be able to say while gainfully employed at a tech company. So I think those are thriving. Those little engineer creatures.
The software engineer in Austin has not died. It's gotten worse because he's now outdated, but still thinks of himself as a software engineer. So he's actually the worst one. Austin,
that's how
fair?
I feel.
Bro, you couldn't get a mic to work for 25 minutes, and you run our tech.
To be fair, you did say PHP was on the brink of becoming huge.
Me?
You said that, yeah. PHP.
Nikita, do you want to try your intro again? Because I feel like you didn't.
My intro again?
We interrupted you.
That there was something wrong with my initial intro?
No. Why'd you do that, Jesse?
Okay. Sorry. I'm Jesse.
It's fine. I can do a usable one, I think.
Nikita, go. My name is Lee. Hi.
Hi, Lee.
My name is Lee. Hi.
The funniest thing about me is I don't think I'm funny. I think generally people don't think that I'm funny.
Lee, I've seen you not doing actually stand. I've seen you as an Asian robot. I thought that was funny.
I think that's more that was Jesse's idea, so I just kind of implemented it. I think I recognize funny, but I'm not actually inherently a funny person.
I disagree. So I met Lee through improv theater, and immediately the way he improvised, like, just stuck out to me, and I found him to be the funniest improviser at that theater. And then we started doing a lot of improv together, and we even started like an improvised stand-up show together and ran it for years. So Lee also has a background in comedy and also acting. So acting is his big creative pursuit. But he wasn't going to tell you that himself. So, but I'm Jesse Warren. and I do improv and stand up, and I've been with Socially Inept since the inception when Austin and I started it. And I don't. I hate the question, what's funny about me? I think what's interesting is how I started approaching comedy, because unlike Austin, who like kind of had this like treadmill of positive feedback with him being funny in life, I never had that. I always was told I was like a very serious and intense child. But then when I was 23, I decided that I would try something very different, stand up, and then I would just take stand up I liked, transcribe the jokes, and try to reverse engineer why each one worked, and then come up with formulas that I would then map onto my thoughts, my original thoughts, and then see. And that was like how I started stand up, just reverse engineering it. And then I learned that nobody did it that way.
It was tragic. It was like I remember Jesse showing this approach to me. We started meeting for regular writing sessions because we met through doing stand-up in Seattle. And I remember Jesse showing me this list of like possible comedic structures that he could iterate a premise through in like to see whether anything functionally fits. And I remember being like appalled, but also very like I felt very privileged that Jesse would show me something so deeply shameful.
Appalled.
He was aghast.
Well, I
You
think
like
that there
this
is
shit, Ken.
something.
You love it. You love it. You love that.
I
That's what it
absolutely
is.
do. That is how I think, and I think that that's really something that's very interesting about what all of you do is that you're taking comedy and you're evaluating it differently. You're treating it differently than pretty much any of the comedians that I've seen before. We talked offline a little bit. You were describing some of your process, some of the innovations you're doing, some of the things that you're different technologies that you're integrating into the roasts and into the improv. And I think it's fascinating. It sounded almost like you were treating comedy like a startup. How did this philosophy? Well, really, how did socially inept start? You guys working together, and how did you guys evolve? In like your philosophy on comedy evolve over this time?
Sure. Do you want to go, Jesse?
Two-part question. Sorry.
I'll just start by framing this. Austin, you can answer it. So I think when you're saying your philosophy on comedy, because the thing we talked about offline was not our like personal creative approach to the craft of stand-up. We were talking about how we've applied this startup mentality to making comedy financially tenable for us, and how we're like growing as a group and scaling our reach. So I think these are two separate things. So if anybody would like to start, Austin, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean it's insane how opaque the comedy industry is and figuring out how to navigate it. But yeah, a big goal for me was always like, how can I do this for a living? Because I really enjoy doing comedy and performing. And I remember I was sort of at an existential crisis when I got a job offer in Seattle at Microsoft. After I graduated, I really didn't want to leave LA and go to Seattle. It seemed really depressing. At the time, I literally emailed Chris D'Elia, who I somehow had his email, and I asked him, hey, like, I'm a senior. I got a job offer in Seattle. I was thinking I'd go here and like hone my skills. What do you think? And he literally just responded, no. I said, should I go? He said, no. And that was it. He just responded, no. And I'm like, they pay a lot. So I went, I had this sort of experience producing shows already because I ran the comedy club at UCLA. And I was running these other comedy shows when I got to Seattle because the local comedy club, like some college comedian like dropped out. And then I got into doing this thing called Young Tech with my friends where like random like conglomerates of like Microsoft people and Amazon people would come and like socialize. And then like me and some other stand-up comedians would do stand-up comedy. And I did a couple of those events and they had some initial success at first, but then I realized it was just kind of boring and depressing and I didn't want to keep doing it. Just because I found myself like focusing more on helping engineers like meet each other through like little social games and less on the fun of comedy. And I remember I was leaving Seattle. It was like August 2018. And I was like, okay, let me just do one last goodbye show. And we changed the frame to be like a roast of the Seattle comedy scene. And Jesse was helping me out. And that very first show, when we pivoted the theme to being like a roast of the Seattle tech scene, it completely rejuvenated. Like prior to that, I was doing these other shows and it was like a dwindling amount of audience every time. Pivoted to a roast of the Seattle tech scene. And there was this moment when Jesse and I were standing outside and looking at the line to go into Laughs Comedy Club. And it was literally like out the door or almost around the corner. And that first show pivoted to the new theme. Like we had like 220 people and it was like standing room only. The energy was insane. And we
all
realized
that shifted. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
we realized that it was something that like people were really interested in, even though they had no idea what the show was. We didn't even have a good idea of the form yet, like because this was super early on. We had like 5 roasties on stage, like 8 comedians.
All we really changed was the marketing materials, right? So
yeah.
So there's this trend in comedy where, well, not trend in comedy. So people try to produce shows all the time, and you want to attract people to your show, and you want people to return to your show, and 90% of the marketing materials for these shows look similar. It's a one-pager with like 5 performers' faces who you've never seen before.
Never seen in your life.
And it's just like featuring X, Y, and Z, and
like Coffee Hank and like
and Dirty Joe from the Tenderloin. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, whenever I saw these, I always thought, this makes me want to go less than because for every name I see and I don't recognize, I actually want to go less. So yeah, I do.
And it's like
then
tickets $1. Like
right.
This has no value. $2 optional payment.
So we abstracted out all of those details and just advertised the premise, because we didn't have a following. Nobody knew who we were. So we advertised and highlighted the premise, roast of Seattle tech scene. And we used a minimalist graphic, all black with just the icon. And this was counter to the way comedy shows that we saw were being advertised. And we were advertising through Facebook. So you'd see this in the newsfeed. And I think that this caught people's attention. And we had that one first successful show. And that was when we were like, let's see if we can do this again.
And it's crazy because literally the next day, I like packed my little Toyota Celica with all my stuff and drove back down to LA to move away from Seattle. And like we literally just had this huge success, and I'm like, all right, I'm leaving Seattle forever. But we went and looked at our ticket sales, and I think our tickets were only like $10 a ticket or $15, something really low. But we were like, oh, if we're selling out and making like $2,000 or whatever, I can actually afford plane tickets to come back. So we set up another show and this was, at this point, it was me and Jesse. We set up a show in October of 2018, sold out again. Then we set up 2 shows, same comedy club, Laughs Comedy Club in Seattle. We didn't quite sell out. I remember every detail about these early shows. It's crazy. I think we sold 160 tickets per show, so we didn't quite sell out. But we did 2 in a row, back to back. We were super motivated. We were like, oh, let's do this in San Francisco. So 2019, I ventured out in SF and I did it. I like met the dudes from the setup and I set up 2 shows there. And we just had random comedians come up and like, I had to like beg my friends to get roasted. Some of them were like low-key offended that I was asking them. They're like, why are you asking me to get roasted? Like I actually like lost friends because they were offended that I'd asked.
And this is a theme. Like, so early on, we were desperate to get people who wanted to be roasted. We roasted Lee him from our company, Lee, and we just pretended like he was just some guy in tech. We roasted my younger brother.
Your brother's
Austin.
In tech. We roasted my younger brother who was studying business and real estate.
We even
How did we
roasted your
angle it that he was
girlfriend.
in tech? I don't know. It was
Lee,
bad. Lee?
Hey, you got to fake it till you make it. And I think I don't think you're having any issues getting guests now, I would assume.
No.
it's definitely like a coveted position now, which is really cool because to me it always seemed like it should be covered. Like if I wasn't doing this, I would volunteer for that in a heartbeat. I think it's cool. I get that it's not for everybody, but I would definitely like it.
It's crazy that sorry, I'm still like latched onto our journey. It's crazy that what we're doing next year is close to what we were doing in 2019, which will have been now 4 years ago. But like we actually have so much more foundation behind it. Like we were trying, so like in 2019, we got some momentum and we were doing shows in like Denver, Austin, LA, and New York. And we were struggling to sell out. Like when we did New Cities, we spent an insane amount on Facebook ads. People didn't know who we
Thousands.
were.
So we lost money on most of our shows that we were
That
touring.
were not San Francisco and Seattle.
Right.
And then we did get some momentum. People were like learning about our show. And towards the end of 2019, so I think Nikita joined. I was looking at our messages, Nikita. I think you joined closer to the middle of 2019. In like July or something, I think you did your first. I could have been wrong, but I know.
No, I think we weren't even speaking in July. I think we had a big fight in the spring, and then we didn't speak for like 7 months. And
That's
then
2020.
Oh,
That's not 2019.
oh, then I didn't join back then. I mean, yeah, I started working with you.
You
but
were
I didn't,
in a
like, we had
summit
no
with us.
idea. Yeah.
You joined us for some part of a summit at Lee's
Yeah.
house. I had photos from October
but
2019.
I was making no money. I was in no way attached formally to the company.
Yeah,
I really
maybe that was
liked
the case.
I really liked the show, but to say that I joined, like only in terms that we were already working together.
Oh, you were hanging out with us and we were flirting with you.
Right, and there was
We were
talk
courting
about
you.
like
Courtship.
you were trying to get me to become
Buttering
an
you up.
employee, and I said, and I was only interested in it if we had equal creative control over the show, and then we negotiated for months. So I didn't really join until
A years long negotiation.
Wait, I want to pause this. What we're talking about right now sucks. Ken, reorient us with perhaps something new.
I recently released the course that I wish I had had when I was starting out in the data science domain. It's called The Machine Learning Process from A to Z, and I partnered with 365 Data Science to build this. I also worked with my good friend Jeff Lee, who's one of the most impressive data scientists I know, to get all of the implementation correct. This course is special for a couple reasons. So first, it focuses on the machine learning process. So you go from ideation to data collection to exploratory data analysis, all of the steps to building and implementing a data science project. It's all taken care of for you. We don't focus as much on the algorithms. This is all about getting a project out the door. Next, we've also open sourced all of our code and all of our examples on GitHub and Kaggle. Those are very easily accessible to everyone, including those people who just maybe want to see those and don't want to pay for the full course. In addition to that, we've included all of the resources that we use to build the course, so you're getting multiple different perspectives on every single concept rather than just our singular voice. I view this course as one of the most valuable things that I've put into the world, and I'm excited to hear what you think of it. I've included a discount link in the description for the YouTube video, as well as in the descriptions on all the other podcast platforms. Well, to follow that up, what makes the tech scene or tech people in general so inherently roastable? Like what is so, is it the subculture? Is it that people think that so highly of themselves? Is there something about the specific group that like is inherently fun to make fun of? Or is it just, hey, this is your subject area knowledge and you're incredible at roasting and it makes it work as it is? Or, I'm very interested in the tech subculture because I think it's like fascinating and people posture and people talk about their work and you're asking about your total compensation. But from your perspective, why is that an area where you enjoy to make comedy?
There's so much to make fun of. It's insane. They're so broken. Like there's these 22-year-old kids out of college. First of all, the nature of the person that's in tech, they're usually more fascinated with how things work than human interaction and people from my experience, which lends, I mean, like, obviously there's definitely like a lot of people that are very sociable, but the typical person in tech, the archetype in my mind are these, I guess there's like one type of person that's like the kids in your computer science class that are like truly didn't socialize or interact, that are in the back of the class. And then they went on to make like tons of money out of college, like, 120,000 base with 80K sign up bonuses at like Facebook and Amazon and stuff like that. And then like backloaded with 60 to 120K equity. So making like $250,000 total compensation year one. And then there's this other type of person that I kind of relate to, which is like someone who wasn't that cool in like high school or popular, that there's like this tech bro archetype that's extremely funny to me, of person who reads self-help books, biohacks, and isn't fully socially aware. They're kind of socially inept. But at the same time, they are immersed in this, they have this like new sense like of self from tech and these interesting social situations.
I agree. I think that this is where Austin and I kind of like initially bonded, which is like we come from this class of people who were not sociable nor cool growing up, and then we learned all of it by reading books. So like obviously it's like not the best way to do it. Like we read the same like charisma bullshit like books. And
wait, were you not cool or sociable growing up?
No. How did you not know this about me? I mean, it depends like when you think the transition happened.
We started at the same level of social competency.
I was the Pacific Northwest regional Yu-Gi-Oh card playing champion. Like I was like
you were nothing, Austin.
Yeah, so you don't have that accolade.
Yeah, but you were like any accolades.
But you were like good at speaking with people, right? In like high school and like making friends and stuff, or no?
No, I didn't like go to dance. I was invited to dances. I was nervous around people, and then when I was 17, I started working out and like reading those books, and then I started like implementing it. But I guess that's like still growing up. Yeah,
we read the same books, and you're here, not me.
You don't learn. You don't absorb information when you read. Like it just fucking hits you.
That is impressive, actually, because you are one of the few like tech bro archetypes where it's actually, I will say, it's relatively seamless. Like, because you really do practice it a lot. I guess I didn't fully recognize how inept you were, because all the people I know who are charismatic, how you are, actually grew up in very like families that like coddled them and treated them like the golden boy. And they were also just like really kind, naturally empathetic and warm, like people that gravitate towards other people. They're just this social person throughout their whole lives. Those are the people who I know that are like that. But I think it's so interesting that you actually weren't like that. You're engineered.
Well, I think
I was engineered. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's very inspiring in some sense, right? If you can transform your life, you can. I mean, you're doing the exact opposite of being someone that's socially uncomfortable. You're talking on stage in front of people. You're really out there.
Totally. I think the message is only optimistic. I think it's a little bit embarrassing, and I have this sensation in my body that's like mildly cringing when I talk about it, because it's like weird that I learned through books and stuff. I think that there's this bias towards like wanting things to come naturally and innately, but my whole perception is that like I had none of that. So I do like this like idea that you can learn. So that's why I started comedy, right? So some people take to it naturally, but in high school I built up this like all these defenses through like I was like a teen bodybuilder in high school. I would like compete in teenage bodybuilding events, and that was coming from a background of not playing sports and being the skinniest guy in my class. So I did that. I made that deliberate jump because I wanted like this suit of armor to wear. And then I realized there are people like Nikita who would just like fuck with your head even if you had this suit of armor physically. And then I was like, okay, I gotta get my brain to be limber. I got to joust with my,
I have never been anything but supportive towards Jesse's transformation. And I think it's very good of you to share your story. I think it doesn't matter how you get the skills that you need as long as you get them, and inspiring people to do that is
Dude, it sounds like you were born a blank like avatar slate. Like truly, Jesse, like it's almost like you had no attributes.
That's how I feel. No, that's how I feel, dude. That's how I feel. I feel like everything I got, I just got it from the internet. I was just like reading.
You were the default sim and you downloaded content.
Yeah, yeah. I'm downloading it from you, dude. Like literally, I think the best part of this, my favorite part of this experience working with these guys is they're just so naturally funny, and I'm just over here downloading, sponging things up. There's little like vocal patterns and idiosyncrasies. I'm just documenting what I like, taking it.
It's like he's asking that question over and over again. What is funny about them? You know?
I'm imagining that me and Nikita are these different creatures in the wild, like apex predators, and then you're like this little like ball, this alien thing, and you like scan us, and then you like absorb our features, and you like combine them, and then use them to like kill us off in like one.
Right. Any creature in the wild, with your chin, Austin, is grazing. There are no predators built like that. This is you have a face for grazing.
You've the chin of a gatherer. We've been meaning to talk to you about this.
Let's be on the hunt.
I wanna try to step up for our audience and say that I don't think they're I don't think they're more broken than other target audiences out there. I think the answer to your question,
they're broken in a particularly relatable way.
Yes, and every group is once you get to know them and once you get to love them. So I think we can talk about unique ways in which the tech community is broken, but I don't think we should
say they're uniquely broken.
Suggest that they're more broken than any other community. I think
they are in a way, right? Because
you shared your perspective. Now I want to share mine, and then we can hear how you're toxic to our audience again, and then I can do damage control again. Is that? Do you mind if we just take it step by step?
What do you want to say, Baldilocks?
So I think the answer to your question is it's both. There is things that we know just by virtue of knowing and loving that community, but then there are unique things about the tech industry that are making it particularly ripe for satire. Like you have these incredible numbers flying around. Like there's scales that are like slapstick and comical in nature, and not every industry has that. And having that is definitely very innately funny. Like when suddenly you have, it's like Austin mentioned, right? It's like just the salaries, and maybe that's changing slightly now, but it's just like the scale at which the experience of people in this community is numerically misaligned from the experience of like the commonsensical world around them. I mean, there's also things like finance, but I think tech is uniquely positioned as an industry to just have all these huge things that are comical in scale, that are just like, and the fact that there's just a lot of new stuff all the time, new stuff, and people working with abstract like notions. There's a lot, like people spend a lot of time working in abstractions and being guided by some corporate entity that's directing their like life, including their social life. And I think the result is they get like misaligned from human expectations in ways that are particularly funny to explore.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of events on the extremes in comedy, and not in comedy, in tech, and that makes for comedy, right? You also have bubbles where there's different cultures within even these large tech companies that are inherently nonsensical, right? You look at something like acronyms where you're calling something something that is definitely not, but only a select group can understand it. There's like very clear in groups and out groups in tech. And I think that does lend itself for comparison to like, how can you not from the outside looking in, laugh at yourself a little bit because of, you go to lunch at work and they have some exorbitant amount of food. You go to these campuses and you see how ridiculous all the amenities are. And then you see the staff and it's like a 23-year-old kid who's wearing a freaking like beanie inside in California, and you're like this is there's so much dissonance between, for example, the people and the environments, that I think that whenever something inherently doesn't match up to what our perceived reality is, there has to be something comical about it, in my opinion. I really like that description that you put in
That's
there.
that's one of the leading theories on what humor even is. Cognitive
Like dissonance.
discrepancy theory, dissonance theory or something, where your brain is trying to attempt to resolve this thing that it didn't know that it had to resolve. So it's seeing these two juxtaposing things and trying to resolve it. And then when it does, at least when you try to, you laugh.
So
again, really, like when scientists ask that question of what is funny about someone, this is one of the main answers they've been able to come up with. You said this is a new office, right?
It is, yes. This is
You
my
might want
first.
to look into how that plant is giving you bunny ears throughout the whole thing.
That's a good look, yeah.
You look like a Pokemon. Which one am I thinking?
Oddish.
Oh yeah, I gotta do. Yeah, I have the blue shirt on too. It works perfectly.
You look like an Oddish.
Not exactly the one I would go for if I was choosing myself as a Pokemon, but what can you do?
Incongruity resolution theory. Just for the record, I got it wrong. Incongruity resolution theory. Resolving incongruity.
Good. I'm glad that this is connected to the thing we were just talking about and not just you saying words.
That's good.
Sounded sarcastic, Nikita. Those are fighting words.
Well,
is Lee asleep in his chair? Like an old
Lee is
man.
out. Lee, so tell me how you actually keep tabs on all these guys.
These guys?
Yeah, obviously you're running a lot of the all of the impressive stuff that's happening in the background, making, from what I understand, a lot of shit happen. How is it working with this group? What have you learned from being a part of this?
Well, I think it's very telling that Jesse just messaged me saying, "Lee, be nice."
Well, yeah, but tell him about the way I spelled it kind of cute with 3 E's in every word.
Right.
There's only 2
B
E's in
as
this.
the animal.
Right.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I'm winging it most of the time. I'm definitely not uniquely qualified to be doing what I'm doing.
You're probably overqualified.
No. Oh, I mean, I'm overqualified in some areas, but I don't use that for running the shows. I think I've never been someone who produced shows. I don't have experience in that, or running technical theater, or running social media, or any of that. I'm just doing it because the 3 of them won't or can't.
Whoa, dude!
I often describe.
Come on now.
Is this the reckoning? Are we reckoning on a podcast?
Lee, this is your time to tell all.
I'm and this is not new to these 3 people, but I'm the
first
trash
time I'm hearing
can.
about any of this.
I'm the trash can at the bottom. Each 3 of them will pick what they want as the trash comes through. They'll pick parts that they want, but at the end of the day, the things that they don't want and they don't pick falls into my trash can. And
what a way
I
to
have
describe
to
following your dreams and doing what you want to do for a living. Which trash do you want to do, and which trash do you want to put into Lee's throat?
To be fair, that is a beautiful analogy. Without Lee, all the trash falls on the floor.
Have you watched the Netflix movie?
No, Ken, you know what's crazy?
Where it descends into the lower levels of the platform, and people get to eat what they want, and by the end, there's just scraps. That's Lee.
I'm taking scraps. But Ken, here's what's crazy. Without me, one of them will be that trash can. That's
who's next on the trash can list?
I think it would be Jesse. Yeah. And
because they're lost causes. That's why they won't do stuff. Those 2.
I've done stuff.
Do you think Jesse would be the next trash can?
Of course I would.
Of course. I mean,
I don't
think he would like it.
I wouldn't
So
be
how would
happy
you
about
describe your guys' working relationship?
I'm so
Trash
curious if Lee actually believes that Jesse would be the next trash can.
Wait, Austin, do you think it's you? You think it's going to be you?
because if you think it's you, that's
think-
laughable.
I feel like it would
That's you?
default be me.
It is naive, I think, to think it could be you.
I think
Right.
it was me before Lee, and then it became Lee.
I think you thought it was you when it was Jesse.
Right.
No,
I agree with
before you
that.
thought it was you, but really you were just letting the trash fall to the
You were littering for years.
yeah, for
It
years.
was your business model.
Austin, respond.
Thoughts?
So,
I think you guys don't recognize my work.
I feel like this is couples therapy.
a point of contention, yes, is the fact that we have elected Lee as CEO of the company.
No. Wait,
And
Nikita, you
Austin
can't say
is
this.
still having a difficult time adjusting to the fact that instead of an equal partnership, we now have like this strict corporate hierarchy with Lee on top. I think
He's joking, Austin. Reel it back.
Well, that's a joke. But you guys are actually dismissing my fine production skills that I've done in the past. But it's fine. Even though it was
no. The specific things you do very, very well. I think it's more a matter of like having the sort of the detached emotional bandwidth to field a whole stream of tasks that are unexpected and that.
Sure,
'cause
but I'm just pointing out.
Attached
I'm
more
just
so.
pointing out that that's what I did in 2019. So
Yeah, that's what everyone says about things they've never done. That's exactly what I did in 2019.
And that's when it took
There's
place
no way
too.
to
Everybody
check.
talks about 2019 in that exact way. But Lee,
Yeah, because no documents have been preserved. Sorry.
Ken was asking you like how amazing it must be to work with like talent like us and stuff like that. So onward with your
Right. I mean, each one of them has a unique, I'd say, creative personality, and it really shines on stage. It's frequently combative off stage, but not in like the most horrible way.
That's not true. It's gone bad.
I mean,
that's not
it's
true
not
at
bad.
all.
Well, I'm not saying that it's never bad. It's probably mostly bad, but it's unique. I'd say it's unique. Like, you know, all four of us, I think it's fair to say that we're sufficiently stubborn, yeah, and then strong-headed, and then
Whatever you
and
say.
then it's just a matter of keeping each other sufficiently happy so we don't blow up and go on walks separately. Austin has something in mind. Austin right now is
there's this thing that happens, Ken, where Austin can't move past a thing until we talk about that thing, and you can see it in his face.
Go on.
Ken, can you see? Can you recognize Austin when he's not really?
Well, so I think inherently, like, dissonance within a group is a good thing, right? If you're all stubborn and you that means you care about what you're pushing forward. I mean, like, that's the, like, in any of the people I do business with, in any of the companies I've worked at, and any of the projects I have, if people aren't willing to push back for what they believe in or their role in the things, that's inherently a problem. If someone's a pushover, that means they're just effectively doing it your way. And I think that's, unless your way is really good and you're some sort of fucking genius that I'm not, I don't think that it's going to be successful without those people that are willing to tell you to your face. And I think you guys are far more transparent than other people I know. I mean, you're used to, in some sense, confrontation. Yes, there's like a veil of comedy around it a lot of the time. But to me, that's something that I think a lot of people aspire to have, is the ability to tell your friends exactly what you think and to still be friends after it. And, you know, yes, you hurt each other's feelings every now and then. But I have to imagine the relationships that you guys have as friends as well as business partners is fundamentally different and probably better than most of the ones that I've seen. I think that, just from listening in on you guys and enjoying this conversation, to me that's something very special, and like I'm grateful that I get to see it at least in some snapshot here now, which is really neat.
I'm very happy to hear you say that. I agree. I think there's like none of what we're doing would work without this balanced interpersonal dynamic of people being passionate about their respective like artistic visions and still having not just the motivation but also the mechanical sort of scaffolding in place to maintain equal creative control over stuff. And this is why it took so long of like for me to figure out how I could join the thing, because I knew that it wouldn't be this like uh, free moving like experimentational thing unless we all were able to push it in different directions. So it's definitely it can lead to a lot of conflict internally, but the fact that we've been able to suffer each other as long as we have, and
Barely.
to still love each other and to still want to work together is both surprising and magical to me.
For the
I think
record,
it's
wait,
what?
Austin, Jesse. For the record, nobody has agreed that I am officially that title. Nikita likes to make
Oh,
fun,
it's a joke. It's a
use
joke.
this as a joke to poke at Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Austin,
So Lee is having a difficult time transitioning into his new role as CEO. This is actually common, so
Stop.
it's a bit of
you're
imposter
triggering
syndrome.
Austin,
No,
Nikita.
that's not why I was triggered. I was
Uh,
triggered for a separate reason,
I
but
know.
it's fine.
Well, so for me, I think it's probably been less. Has it been actually that hard for you guys? So I started with each of these guys separately as friends for years before I started working with them. So Austin and I were friends for a long time before we started
1
working.
year,
1 year.
less, 7
Oh,
months.
I guess we started this pretty soon. But like Nikita and I had been doing stand up together,
You were
and
friends with
meeting
Nikita for
separately
less.
for less than one.
Oh, but he joined.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's not the duration. It's not the duration. It's
When did
there's a
you
lot
moved
of
to
factors
Seattle in
to friendship.
2018, right, Nikita?
2016. But I
You
didn't
did?
start doing comedy right away. No, I spent
Oh,
about 18 months working on a game dev project, not before I started comedy at all.
Wow.
So yes.
Right, Ken,
so
you should know
getting
this. Nikita's early stand-up is more of a one-man show at an open mic. So
He would
it's,
bring
it's
a
not
Alright.
exactly
long,
a
a
stand-up.
long page,
a
and he would read it
scroll.
monotonously.
A
A
scroll, an
scroll.
actual scroll. I've never seen this. I've only heard about this
I've only ever
fantasy.
seen a similar scroll when I visit the Dead Sea, and
And yet,
there you'll find. Go ahead.
And he was
and yet,
roasting your
if we needed
joke
to,
engineering process.
He would read
Yeah,
like
that's
this
right.
very long, complex, dry, like literature.
so my background was fully in writing, and none
He
of
would
it
read
had
Nietzsche.
anything to do with performing. Up until that point, I was only ever interested in writing, and more from a poetry angle than from a comedy angle. So when I first got introduced to the medium of stand-up, which was not something I knew growing up in Russia because stand-up wasn't around at the time just as a concept, I first excitedly jumped in as just a writer, sort of going up on stage and presenting their work to the audience. And it definitely wasn't what you'd expect or want to see at a comedy show. But I think the writing would sometimes get a good reaction, and that motivated me enough to keep going and stand up. And then, like a few months in, going up nightly, I started actually trying to pay attention to delivery and performance. But initially, yes, I was definitely more of a scroll reading comedian.
Like his stand up was composed of complete sentences. It was wild.
Wow. I can't say I've been to too many open mics. I'm not sure what I would think if someone came up and read a scroll. I'd probably think it was interesting, to be perfectly honest. I'm quite
Well,
odd.
yes, but to be very clear, I continued to do stand up for many years since, and that is not
You
my
retired
current
the scroll?
approach. I think what?
You've retired the scroll?
I mean, I have come to realize that unless a stand-up act is a dialogue between the audience and the comedian, a one-sided thing doesn't really work in stand-up, I think. So yeah, that's something I had to learn through experience. And I still like stand-up is very important to me. We because of how much work we've had with the show, we haven't really been able to do stand up as frequently as we are used to, or at least speaking for myself, I used to just like count on performing at least like seven times a week, and now I get to do stand up every once in a while because we are continuously on tour with the show, essentially. So it's also an adjustment that's a little unfortunate, because I wish we had more time for individual stand up time.
Yeah, I think it seems interesting. You all have different backgrounds in comedy and technology, and I do really enjoy the dynamic you guys have, the sort of combative but progressive. What else do you think like serves to differentiate you guys in the show? You know,
I've always no, I've always paid a lot of attention on being progressive in my life. So yeah, that's a direct answer to your question. Progressive. I like to be progressive.
As far as the show goes, though, the thing
Progressive.
there was
Progressive.
like a turning point for me in show quality when, because for years we would do stand up independently up top and then independently read jokes. So it was all just shifting among us doing independent comedy, it all in the same show. But since we made the transition to the three of us going up together at the beginning of the show and improvising amongst ourselves while looping the audience in the whole time, the audience is looped in the whole time, individuals and as a group, the show has just transformed into something completely different. I personally have not seen a stand-up show that does this. It's, to me, it's more akin to the same reason I like the podcasts that I like, which it's like aspirational friendship. When you see like such a strong connection among people that you're like, I would like to replicate this in my personal life because it looks awesome. That's what I seek to bring, and the stuff I also
I
seek
would
to
like to
consume.
have that on DVD.
And that's the we're all pretty much in agreement that that's like what our show is. We send feedback forms out after every show, and time and time again,
data
it's
driven.
like the dynamic. So
And I think
that's
sorry. Didn't mean to
just
interrupt.
real quick. So that's the unique. That's the thing that's not replicable, in my opinion. So, but what we do also do uniquely, but is potentially replicable, given the right person with the right background, is this very niche, specific industry knowledge coupled with the comedy that we do. So that's like the bread and butter of our show, obviously, and that's like the selling point. But to us, the thing that we're really working on is honing this interpersonal dynamic among ourselves.
I think that is the selling point, though, right?
Well, it's hard. It's not the selling point, right? So the thing we're selling, the thing we advertise, the thing we market is not, come see these guys. They're
Sure.
great friends.
Right. So
Sure. Right.
But
in the
individually,
messaging.
it's definitely the selling point for me. Like I remember there was a point when we all talked about it, and we realized as we were moving from this sort of more traditional format of individual stand-up sets and then a roast to something that's closer to a fully improvised show, which is where we're at right now. We do have some pre-written jokes at most shows, but the entire thing is more or less riffing. Like almost like 80% of the show is now crowd work and riffing. And before that like became the case, we had this long journey towards that format, and I think we're still moving towards a more like an even more improvisational format. But we at some point got together and decided that like it feels like the real product of the show is our friendship, like our interpersonal dynamic is the part that like being able to like actually trust each other and play around on stage is like the human thing that we can share. That so many people in our audience are reporting they don't feel like they get enough of, like, because it's a potentially isolating field.
It's
So
interesting too. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to loop this back into something you asked earlier, which is like how we resemble a startup more than like comedy, or how we're leveraging like our startup mentality is in comedy. And this illustrates it quite well, actually, because there's a very common form that stand-up has been done for decades, which is like host, feature, headliner, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 to an hour. And that's just how it's been done. There's some minor variations in stand-up, but that's like the de facto way to do a comedy show. And it's cool. But there's certainly room to innovate in what a stand-up show looks like. And we have this system where we have our flagship show and we do what is currently the most exciting for us. But we also have this show called the NDA show, where we have a small 100-person seat venue, and we bring to each of those shows a segment idea one of us or as a group have brainstormed and want to just test out and see how it's received. And then the ones that are best received are iterated upon and then eventually brought to the flagship show. So there's this so our show is constantly changing, like, and it's changing according to like what technology is out. So like when GPT-3 was around, we were like, how do we use this in the show? And we tested it, and that started working out well. So we brought it to our flagship show. So
I am interested in how social media fits into all of this as well, though. You were talking about selling points earlier. And actually, I think the selling point of your show is the social media content that you all produce, right? I would imagine a lot of the people that go to the show now, that's where they're finding out about you. They're saying these guys are funny. The roasts are funny. The skits are funny. How do we actually, like, that's what drives people, drives traffic. I'm interested in how you guys come up with your content. I think the skits are incredible, but also the overall roast and clips are great. So can you walk me through that story a little bit?
The end of 2020 is when when we started putting efforts into posting more videos on Instagrams and TikTok specifically. And initially, it wasn't even show footage. It was just Austin doing the characters. Actually,
October
Austin,
2021.
Did you start with characters, or was it more like just skits?
After Socially Inept collapsed in 2019, end of 2019, early 2020, when we had to cancel all of our shows, Jesse and I basically went full into TikTok, and I was only doing Trump impressions because I saw one of my friends from college was doing a Trump impression, and we would always compete with each other. So then I'm like, I want to be famous on TikTok. Let me just try to do my own version of it.
Self-made.
Self-made man. Jesse was a shirtless dragon who gave self-help advice to small kids. And we both kind of found ourselves. I would doing
what we always dreamed of.
I realized that I wasn't happy, I think, when I made a video, Trump as a Little League baseball coach. You're doing great. You're doing so great. My son is the best son, by the way. I'm like, this doesn't have a future.
I don't know. I think it's admirable that, like, you as a self-made man had the audacity to go out there and like blaze a trail imitating another person.
Another self-made man. Me and Donald Trump have a lot in common. Both self-made men, given only a small sum of $1 million.
Are you both in real estate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my dad went half on the Airbnb. But to be fair, I was able to put a down payment on a condo from using money from a college fund that wasn't used for my college. So that's privilege of
That's
mine.
the kind of inspiring storytelling you want behind it, right?
Jesse became viral. He
Jesse
grew his account.
became wild too. It went to his head. It was crazy. Honestly,
What?
end of June, early July 2020, me and my girlfriend Marlena drive up to Seattle, and we stay with Lee. And I think I had 10,000 followers on TikTok. Jesse far surpassed me. He hit 60,000 on TikTok, and fame went to his head from the dragon.
Did it? Because if we're talking about the same incident, I remember it from a very different vantage of you not being a supportive friend. Do we want to talk about that? Is that the way we close?
Fine.
Anyway, so a few months after that, I was at a Phil's Coffee here in SoCal.
I feel the need
NorCal.
to defend myself. Fame went to my head. So what Austin is talking about is I thought my content was good. Like I was happy and I wanted to keep doing it. And Austin disagreed. He thought I was fundamentally broken for thinking that like I was doing anything useful.
Austin believes that the only art that counts is Trump art.
Right.
Now, Austin believes a lot of things, but when I called him to talk about our company's social media, he believed right away.
The conversation.
He believed right away that we should keep posting. And initially, I asked him to, hey, just choose to commit to posting every day for like a week, right? Something like that. And then we'll go week by week. And when that started, we got no traction for a while.
That didn't start for like, it wasn't like every day until August. Honestly.
Yeah, but we had like a schedule. Like we knew that we wanted to be posting regularly.
It was like 3 videos a week at first. And we knew we wanted to do content right before it was October 2021 or so. We were all like gearing up to start up shows again because we paused for a long time. Jesse and I were viral on TikTok already. And we wanted to like plan for our upcoming shows. And we're like, all right, we're going to make content this year. We made that a priority. We bought an expensive camera in May. We were going to make YouTube videos, do all this stuff. Nothing materialized because we had some sort of our team had inner phobia of producing content after our TikTok era. So Lee proposed that we do social media. I was vehemently opposed because I was already doing my own content. And then we trialed this one video and it was okay. It got some traction, but then I had made a few other videos like this tech bro PM character, Lucas guy. And it started getting views, and it wasn't a lot at first, but it was like very noticeable growth despite the.
Well, it was a lot for our account size.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. Like we went from 2 followers to like 100 to 1,000. Watching that really early stage growth was really motivating, especially because I felt really depleted in my own sad content journey.
I think we missed the part where this transition to a focus on content was motivated out of a deep need and desperation. So this whole time up until switching to content, we'd relied on Facebook advertising, a little bit on Instagram advertising to drive all of our ticket sales. And because of the new iOS update, security update, and whatever other factors just caused Facebook advertising prices to skyrocket, making it utterly unfeasible for us to rely on them to get word of mouth for our shows.
It was insane.
So we were
absolutely impossible.
Right. So we were losing money. We considered shutting down all of our shows, except for our Seattle show, which was still a little bit profitable. But we were losing money even going to the Bay Area, which was like our other. So when we were in this pit of despair, we were like, it was a
despair pit, if you will.
Yeah, and this wasn't even our first one. We neglected to talk about how all the other times we were sad, but this was a sad and dark time because Austin, you literally proposed we shut down this as a company and we just have this cool show we do in Seattle sometimes.
We were going to sell Austin for a while. We were seriously talking about selling Austin
to a luau, to bury him underground
and have him
a prisoner. Some emu Austin. Emu is when you like cook it underground.
It's called emu.
Yeah, so I did like for Thanksgiving I did emu turkey where you like give them the turkey and they bury it with the banana leaves and
that's what. And we wanted to serve him with poi.
I thought you said you move Austin, like moving tons of like moving product when you cook it underground.
No, emu.
That
It
sounds.
sounds like the animal.
We
It's
move
good.
huge volumes of Austin.
Well, also,
underground?
what's your favorite? What?
I'm just imagining an underground cooked turkey and banana leaves. That sounds crispy.
It sounds very good. I would like that.
Very
If
exclusive.
you guys come out, I'll treat you, but it has to be around the holidays because they only do it.
And where are you?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Oh,
Yeah.
that explains the leaves growing out of your head.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
Climate.
plastic plant, but
It also explains the fact that he has chips, and when we said, "Oh, what flavor chips?" he goes, "Oh, they're dried pieces of ahi." They're fish. That doesn't
Ken,
exist anywhere
you had
else.
a question earlier.
well, so I was
Did
going to
he?
ask Austin who his favorite character to play is in the skits.
Oh, I think the CEO character,
Speakmeister.
the Speakmeister.
Really?
That's
No,
the-
Austin, really?
You said ever since Aaron has been increasingly sexualized, you've enjoyed playing him more.
Yeah.
I find Aaron to be fun, but Speakmeister, I feel like I can get out a lot of my angst as him.
So comedy is also and social media is also therapy in some way. I think.
Yeah, I was at a diner yesterday with my friends, and like we couldn't get the waiter's attention, and I just thought it was so funny because I wanted to order onion rings, and I was like, "Bring me rings of onion, fry them, and ring them to." I don't know. I just like have this angst that I need to get out.
Wow, I'm glad we're ending on a story that makes you sound like such a delightful human being.
Well,
If there was any ambiguity.
I'm looking for a fried onion, the rooted vegetable. Ring them at once. Batter them, ring them to me.
I do think a good place to end is like where would you guys like Socially Inept to go? Like, what is the future? What can some people
Emo. We want it to emo. Underground, buried.
just
That'd be
underground cook? And what do you have coming up? You're obviously welcome to plug any of the content and shows that are coming up.
Sure, let's go around and share our vastly different visions for the company.
Why don't we start with our CEO, Austin?
No, Walter Chang, you want to go ahead?
Lee, go ahead.
For me, I don't know. I think we're so early that it's kind of foolish to think about where this is going. I'm much more focused on the short term of just not burning out for me and trying to keep the team together as a group. I think we're always like, when we fight, and Ken, as much as you enjoy this dynamic, it does get pretty bad, like very bad. And we're always walking that line of, is this too bad? And then we just like break apart. And I, as someone who is not on stage and have a little bit more margin to give in terms of like being the social glue, which I'm not good at, but I'm having to play that role. Keeping the team together is basically my overarching goal in the short term. Does that make sense?
I thought it was the opposite. Just from like observing your behavior, I thought you were scheming to break us apart. I was completely misreading it for a while. That's completely on me. Yeah, I think that Lee said we're in very early stages. For me, I'm less optimistic. I think what we're witnessing right now is the late / final stages of Socially Inept, which is where we do our best work, hopefully, artistically. But I think we're.
Are you kidding? I'm
really
confused.
burning.
He's kidding. He's joking.
I'm
But
kidding.
Ken's looking serious, and it's making it
I
difficult.
always look serious.
I know.
Sorry.
I
I
was
have
so
resting
confused.
serious face.
He had a resting serious face, and Nikita sounded serious. So.
Come on,
Yeah,
I'm
I
being
think
sincere. You guys have to like yes and that.
I thought Lee was the
Yeah.
actor.
We were
I mean, I
all
was
we were all
being
yes handing.
serious.
But to Nikita onward, because Lee had just proposed this like wildly ambitious long-term plan of not breaking up. So Nikita, if you could juxtapose that with something a little more practical, please.
So I think
Austin needs to go. We all know Austin needs to go. It's been top of mind for us these past few company meetings. And I'm glad that we have a platform where we could do this transparently so the audience knows exactly what we're doing and exactly why we're doing it. So thank you for offering your podcast as that. I think as long as we're clear that these are more dreams than plans, I can talk about what I want to happen. Like what I'd like
tell
to
me your
happen.
dreams, Nikita.
What I'd like to happen is every time we talk to our audience about what they want besides entertainment, I think the answer is most frequently, like sometimes it's insight into like the job market, things like that. But I think the biggest answer we get most of the time is people are looking for a tool to facilitate like finding other humans to be friends with and to just have human connections. So if we can somehow keep improving our show and build a community around it where people can find friends, I think that would be very cool. Like whatever we can do to make friendship more accessible, sort of like, and I'm not talking like friends in terms of just like social media like numbers. I'm talking about like actual like people to hang out with, to laugh with, and have fun with.
Friendship as a platform, as a service.
Friendship as a service.
If we can,
fast.
if we can do something to help along that metric, that would be extremely cool, I think. And then from a more selfish, just completely personal standpoint, we're getting to meet all kinds of like people that we looked at, always like were interested in and looked up to. We recently got to meet because when I was trying to get into game development, I would like work on a VR project. It was a passion project. It was just me working on it. It was very lonely. And then suddenly, just recently, we got to meet like the founding team of Oculus and actually like get to like have some sort of a human connection into what prior to that moment was a very cold tech wall, and then suddenly we get a small window into it. So that's really cool. I'm hoping that we'll get more insight and more like direct access to interesting things happening in tech, and that includes people and actual technology. So that's exciting to me.
Amazing. I will say one of the best things about the content space for me, or any of the things that I've produced, is I've met like probably 50, 100 real people that are doing similar things that I now consider friends. Some of them are like, one of them is my best friends. I've gone into business with a couple of them. To me, that's wild that I can produce something that hopefully has value, that some people enjoy, but it also brings me selfishly like friends, but also all of them have become friends as well. It's just this like crazy community aspect that I was not prepared for when I like freaking turned on my camera for the first time and recorded myself awkwardly in my bedroom talking about data. So it's pretty impressive and awesome that you can.
That'd be crazy if you turned on the camera, decided to talk about data, and you were like, "I'm going to make so many friends."
Exactly. But that was like a positive externality that came out of it, and it was that's literally the best part, which is
I want to also
wild.
add on to my initial thing after hearing Nikita. I would also like to get to a point where I can double my daily budget.
$20 for anybody who doesn't have the memory of an elephant.
Yeah.
Jesse, how about you?
I think Lee and I do a similar thing where we do have the tendency to drift into like long-term thinking, but to me it's like dangerous, and it causes me to have manic and depressive episodes. So fixating on like the short term is definitely like my best strategy. So for that, I see our show getting better. For example, in 2023, we have an unprecedented number of shows lined up in twice as many cities as we currently have. And by the end of 2023, I imagine we're going to get very good at performing with each other, creating the show. It's just going to look so different, and that like excites me so much. I just want to get better. That's all I actually care about, is just getting better first and foremost in this show. The new really uncomfortable realm that I'm working in right now is content. So I started putting out my own content series where I'm talking to techies, interviewing them, and non-tech people. It's going okay. I'd like to. I want to improve.
I've been
at it. I want to. It's a. Thank you. It's a new. I've never done that style of performance kind of. So I want to get better at it. So by the end of the year, I want to get really good at it, and I also want to get better at like being in sketches. I think because I've had a lot of fun working with Austin, and just under his expert tutelage, his content production process is just something else. How quickly he churns this stuff out, it is insane. It is
absolutely impressive.
It's
never seen anything really, like it.
It's
exceptionally genius.
Yeah, and
I can't see anyone else doing it better than him. Honestly,
stop, you're pumping up my chest.
I can't imagine anyone else playing this game better than Austin when it comes to making content.
Please stop it.
The artistry and the precociousness he demonstrates when he's doing it's crazy. So I'm very lucky because I'll get to be looped in. I've recently been looped into a couple of them, and just being around it as he's doing it, it just makes me start thinking like that. So just like, again, I said this, I'm a sponge around these guys. I feel the same way around Lee Nikita when I'm writing, and Lee when I'm trying to abstain from anything that brings me pleasure. I feel like I'm really absorbing their best qualities. So I want to get better. Although this might be fun.
A prodigy at that.
Yeah, Lee mentioned a monetary goal of doubling his budget. I don't know if this is useful. It's useful to me. I do have lofty. I really do think I have these lofty ideas of what we could be doing in the future. No, I won't do it. I have this fantasy of having a video of me saying, this is how much money I predict to make by this date, and then clipping it and then using that later to compare to what it actually is. And I'm never going to record that video myself. So I'm like, oh, we're recording this already. So, but
now's your opportunity to give us that number.
$10 billion.
And everyone hold you accountable.
I don't know. I just want to get better. That's it. I want to keep learning as fast as possible and get better in the near term.
I think happiness in general, this is my personal philosophy, is disciplined pursuit of craft, where you're solely focused on, this is going to get deeply philosophical, but where you're solely focused on one goal.
Happiness now?
Yeah.
When I'm around. Happiness?
Yeah, Lee's going to walk out. If
everyone has happiness in their own way.
Trigger warning, happiness. Sorry, Lee.
But I do firmly believe that happiness is found in again, this disciplined pursuit of craft thing. So if you're doing that, I figure.
But there is something to be said about becoming worse artistically and sort of coasting. Just delivering
Austin?
A product that has the brand recognition to sell tickets, but doesn't have the consistent quality behind it, and just sort of fizzles out in time. I want us to be open-minded to also going that route, because there's a lot of good companies and comedy
Austin,
collectives.
Bring this thing home.
Austin, what would the Speakmeister have to say about the future of Socially Inept?
Our company vision is very simple. We're going to be laying off 50% of the workforce, Nikita and Lee. Other than that, I see us being the go-to source of tech comedy entertainment. And I think we're really pivoting ourselves to be that thing. I don't really see a lot of other options at the moment. So for corporate events, I want us to be top of mind. I want people to just be very aware of our show in each of the tech hubs. And I think we can, I don't know what we're going to do with that. I think just that branding and that positioning will lead to a lot of other things, whether it's podcasts, actual TV shows or web series, whatever. But I just think that positioning is super important and valuable, and it's going to be important for us. I just Googled tech comedy, and the first one is a YouTube channel that has 137 subscribers with a weird tongue out emoji. Then there's like
you guys have got this.
Wikipedia,
Stiff competition.
and then there's us. We're fourth.
Well, yeah, but and this is very exciting as a commercial prospect, but also I think it would be unfair to not mention that there are a lot of different perspectives in comedy and in comedy that exists around tech as well. And I think saying the go-to source is kind of like taking like a music band and saying they're the go-to source for romance songs. Like no one is objectively the
Well, how many
source.
tech comedy channels do you see?
I see a handful that I like, and I don't think we should be dismissive about the work that they're doing.
I actually only know of Joe Matek, and then there's that sketch group.
Is that how we want to close discussing our competition? Can we close on a positive message? I eat one meal a day. Right. It is a kale-dense smoothie, and I recommend other people who want to be productive do similar.
All right, where can people learn more about you? What's the schedule looking like?
Austin's vision for the company is that we're going to be successful.
Yeah.
No.
He just didn't put it as eloquently as Lee just did.
We're going to be successful, and then that's going to give us other opportunities to do other stuff.
To be more successful.
Yes. We have success. We want to keep it. We want to grow it.
No, it's
a
brand identity goal that I think will be a metric of our success.
I don't know if this will make sense to you at all, but what we're thinking is if we have success and then leverage that success for more success. Let me know if this makes sense.
Right.
I have $7,000 at present. In 2025, it'll be $1 million. Okay, I said it. I'm going to cut it, clip it, and compare it.
Dude, it'll be $1 million next year.
So if people want to, if after all of this, people want to still come out to our shows, how do they do that?
Tech Roast Show.
Seriously, how do they do that?
Speak.
At Tech Roast Show, sociallyinept.io, because we are part of the problem.
We do have shows scheduled in San Francisco, Seattle, New York, Austin, and soon to be released, Denver and San Diego.
What the fuck is this kind of attitude?
I don't know.
I remember recording this, and we could use this as a standalone video ad.
You sound like one of the people that like warms up the crowd for Oprah.
I've never seen that show because I'm not from here, Austin.
Thank you for actually doing the work of plugging the show. None of us did. You did, and now we're giving you a
okay, everyone. I need you guys
the trash can.
Your hands
None of you grab it. So
and I will put all of the links to all of your content in the description. Well, not all the content, all the platforms that your content is available.